Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we talk to awesome people about awesome things. And I know, it's been 2 weeks since our last episode, since the season premiere of Everything is Awesome, and I had meant to get this out at least last week, and if not the week before. The issue is, if you haven't been following our social medias, at Real Awesome Pod on Facebook and Twitter, and at Awesome Podcast on Instagram, at That Nerdy Kev on TikTok. I had a wee bit of an accident, stepped off a curb, step thing, rolled my ankle, and in the time that I was supposed to release this episode, and now I've had 2 emergency room visits to get x-rays. Spoilers, no fracture. That's good. Have had a follow-up with my GP, who sent me to get an MRI, and the findings in the MRI include 4 different things. The biggest, a rupture in one of my ligaments on the outside of my ankle, the anterior tibula something another ligament. A sprain on my interior deltoid ligament is the other thing, and then there's some other things happening that I'm not too sure about. So anyway, for the last 2 weeks, I've had my foot go through many different colors. It is currently a haze of purple and green and red. And I've had it up, I've had it wrapped, I've had it iced, and I still can not put weight on it. So I'll be going to an orthopedic doctor later this week, actually, from a couple days after this episode releases. And I determined that February just isn't a good month for me in ankles, because about 16 years ago, I think February 21st, 16 years ago, I broke my left ankle. And here we are now with my right ankle, which is what sucks. That sucks so much. At least with my left ankle, I was still able to do stuff. I think I took a week off from work because it broke. I then got doctor visits and surgery taken care of. I think I worked remotely, which was easy at the time because my job was a point of sale installation job. And I could be the boss from my house. So I did that for a week, and then I immediately went back to work. I believe I had to go to Ohio the week that I went back to work. And instead of flying, because it was a pain in the butt to do with a cast on, I rented a big SUV and drove. Anyway, so the point being, this is where at 39 years old, I discovered that it is better to break your ankle than to sprain it, because when you sprain it, what I think I have, they would call somewhere between a grade 2 and a grade 3 sprain. Probably from what everyone's told me that's in the medical field, I probably won't need surgery. I'll find out for sure this week. But still, it is a very lengthy recovery process. And then even then, one of the nurses was telling me that they had a very bad sprain, that the pain lasted for a year. So that's fun to look forward to. Anyway, that is why this episode is so far delayed, because I injured myself, and in doing so, I left some medication out in my car that I just started taking again. So I'm kind of just getting back to the norm. I can't tell you how much it is kind of makes me go crazy sitting here, because I can't really do the things that I normally do, especially driving. I can't drive at all. So it sucks, guys. If you're going to do anything to your ankles, A, make sure it's your left ankle. B, make sure you break it. I don't know how you can ensure that, but make sure you break it and you don't fully rupture. I just cannot. The doctor called me to tell me that was the results, and I just laughed out loud because it just sounds so bad. Anyway, This week we have a great conversation with an old pal of mine, Jonesy. He is almost as original as you can get when it comes to podcasting in my world, because he is, I want to say, episode 3 or 4, he hopped on Happy Hour with Steel Tip and became part of that show with Jay and I. And then we've since then, like, you know, we that only lasted a few months. We did a couple episodes of the Stabcast together, and then since then really haven't done many podcasts with one another. So this was like to talk in, you know, that space with an old friend is always fun to do. And it's something that the core group of episodes of season 2 here are kind of all about. So anyway, Jonesy is here to speak. You know, we kind of speak about the old times podcasting, how podcasting has changed, and then we get to Jonesy and why he's on the show to chat about his projects, which is basically being an entrepreneur. And the big thing right now, and I'll say it right now, this episode is sponsored by Conversion Chemistry. It is a marketing, a bunch of marketing advice from someone that's been doing it for a very long time. Jonesy explains it way better later in the show, but if you need help marketing things, Jonesy has an offer for you. 90% off a lifetime license to the Conversion Chemistry library of marketing tools by using listener code AWESOME2024. That's AWESOME2024, 90% off. That means you're paying just a mere $197 instead of the nearly $2,000 a lifetime license is going to cost you. So that's what this episode is brought to you by Conversion Chemistry, and Jonesy will hook you up with that code AWESOME2024. And we're going to talk about other things that he's got his hands in right here on the other end. Nope, not the other end. There is no other end. Immediately, we're going to go talk to Jonesy right here on awesomepodcast.com. Perfection.
That's what we're calling it.
Perfection?
Yeah. That's I would not use that term.
It's weird holding a microphone, like, because most of the shows I do now are remote. So I'm usually, I think the last one I literally used the built-in microphone on my laptop and it still sounded great.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of times I'll also use my AirPods if I'm doing remote, or the previously mentioned Blue Yeti, which is, I don't know, there's like a lot of conflicting reports if that's what you like. It sounds like some people think it's like a great beginning and even advanced like podcasting microphone, and other people are like, that's shit.
Got it. It's like basic. So does the brand Yeti have anything to do with the popular brand of beer chilling devices?
No. So it's Blue microphones. They were, I think, big when we were doing at least the Stabcast,
which is 2008.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
so long ago. I don't even know if we're in the product show. So let's. I guess. See, it's weird. I've taken so many years off from podcasting, recorded my first episode in years, like a week and a half ago. So I don't know how to start a show properly anymore.
Right. There's no intro music. We don't have a post to hit. Nothing like that.
Right. Well, and like, I don't even, like, I haven't done that I did that for like maybe 6 months. I wanted to go back to that because that was like an exciting way for us to podcast.
Right.
It made it feel more like radio, and this is nothing like radio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm like, I'm still not even in the mode yet. There's no headphones, but not even mic stands. Come on, man.
Yeah, well,
I thought we'd have the little scissor stands that we clip onto the table here.
This is an extremely quick remote stand. I actually don't have any of those stands, which I guess I need to rectify if I'm going to start doing this professionally.
I bought a whole building for you to do this in.
Well, when that... I love how I built a whole building for you.
It's on you now. I'm putting the onus of this entire experiment on you. If there's dead air, it's your show. That's not my problem. I don't have outlines.
Outlines? A thing of the past, my friend.
Oh, okay.
We had outlines, right, with Happy Hour?
Well, we did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job because I was the head writer or whatever the hell
Did
that
we
means.
have them? I don't think we had them for the Stabcast. I don't know. At least in my era, we did it.
I don't. Well, your era wasn't my era, so I don't know. I think we would have a guest, and then we would have like we want to hit these topics, and then
Right.
since it was 4 of us, 2 to 4 of us at any given point, we would just riff,
Right.
And that's all it turned into.
Yeah, happy hour was very regimented. It was
Right.
very. People always ask like about it. They always ask. Never ask. I force it upon people as I start talking about my history in podcasting, and it's we based it off Matt Huggy, like from the Free FM days,
Right.
because we were a 2-hour talk show with commercials that we literally in studio or wherever we were recording sat through and listened to like the commercials, like whereas in podcasting today you don't do that.
No, but I mean, to be fair, we could have done it the same way back then because we were tech nerds. And we had these elaborate setups, like, 4 or 5 PCs. One would be the recording PC. One would be a freaking backup one. One would be we had a VoIP system on one, a mixer, and then like a soundboard. And this little device you have there is now doing all of this.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm shaking my fist. These damn kids have it so easy these days.
It
The
is-
barrier to entry has never been lower, and yet I still took 13 years off.
I remember when the 10-year podcasting anniversary came up, July 1st, 2017. I sat down I forget what episode number it was, but Everything Is Awesome. I sat down with Santoro, which is probably the last time I talked to him, to be honest.
Wow.
But we sat down. I was like, I want to record like the 10-year anniversary special. It's like a big deal. And we went through all of that, like how much the industry has changed to where like the only thing this device here can't do is really like accept a phone call easily. I remember when this was my only device, which is actually my original one broke. It just stopped working randomly, so I invested in another couple $100 into it. I remember like there's a way you can rig it, but it's just like it's a pain in the ass to try to get a phone call through this thing.
Now you're talking about this device, which is a very, very detailed description on radio for our 4 listeners.
Yeah.
What is this device, Kev?
The Zoom handy recorder H6, the Zoom H6. And it's if you're a podcaster, everyone knows this device. This is the H series is probably with some of the most popular like handheld mobile recording units out there. The same company, Zoom, came out with PodTrack, and they have a couple different things. This one I have over here is the PodTrack P4, which is a 4-channel guy. The nice thing about the H6 is there's like an adapter you can get to make it a 6-channel if you want.
I'm robbing you at some point. I need this for next Tuesday.
Yeah, if you need to borrow stuff before you can purchase stuff, let me know.
Oh, cool. Well,
you
I
can
will
borrow
take
it.
you up on that. I appreciate that.
But it's podcasting has come a super long way since like you and I sat down to record with each other, which was
2007.
Was that well? I think we were me, you, and Santoro were on an episode of the Stabcast together at one point.
We were, but I think Happy Hour with Steel Tip was 2007.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that's
like,
the
beginning.
Right,
That's July
right.
1st, 2007 was when it first aired. Which means we recorded beforehand. Do you remember that first episode? Which I don't know if you were part of episode one.
I called into the first episode, or I was called, or something like that, because I wasn't part of the recurring cast at that point. The show really hit its stride in episode 4 when I joined,
And then it really kind of teetered off right around 18 or 19.
wow, you give a lot more leeway than I did. I said about 8 or 9 is when, but no, we did have a few solid good months there.
Yeah, I mean, me and Santoro butted heads. Admittedly, me being, I think I was around 21, 22 at the time. I'm not doing
20. Wait, 2000.
I was after
23. We were 23.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That checks out. And so I was like just a shitty 20-year-old that had a bit of an ego, and especially like when the idea was, oh, I'm fucking Steel Tip. I'm the star of this shit. I'm King Chris.
Yeah.
I had a bit of an ego, I'm sure, back then, and so him and I butted heads quite often.
Right. I mean, you were at the top of your wrestling fame.
Well, actually, I wasn't. I had stopped wrestling because I had broken my ankle, and the idea for the podcast stemmed from I was done wrestling.
Okay, so you're at the you're at your lowest of lows.
Yeah.
Yep, let's change the narrative here.
Yeah, and all good stuff that we should probably save for our July 1st, the state of the pot. So every July 1st, I try to air like a state. I say every July 1st. I haven't released a podcast in years. So, but like going forward, every July 1st is my State of the Pod episode where I believe you and former friend? No. Friend of the show, not this show, but friend of Happy Hour and the Stabcast, I guess, and Happy Hour 2.0. Shannon Cole, I think we're going to do like a anniversary special for that State of the Pod. I think. I don't know if that's still happening.
There's blast from the past right there.
I know, every time I think about Shannon Cole, I think about the lost recording that I'm so mad I lost this recording because it is one of the few episodes that I had my uncle on. So it's one of the few pieces of audio that I have where I can like hear his voice. And so we were doing an episode of Creepcast. So this is like post Happy Hour Creepcast Stabcast feud.
The Lower Bucks County Podcast Wars of 2009. Yeah, we'll get into that.
And we were somehow, I think Shannon Cole was looking for a new name for her band, and my uncle got on the gimmick. And mind you, my uncle at this 2009, we were what, 25?
Yeah.
So he was around. He was probably 39. Oh my God, he was my age now. Holy shit. Oh, that is wild to me. Anyway, so he's like 39, 40, around that age. And he suggested, and we just went on this tangent about Shannon Cole's hole. Is how we got onto that tangent. Anyway, I don't know how we got here. But yeah, so the big wars of 2000, was that 2009?
It was like, 2008, 2009, the podcast wars that for like 15 of us was a very big deal, and nobody else on this planet cared.
It is, because 2007, July 1st until November-ish is when Happy Hour Steel Tip lasted, right?
Right.
And then you guys started Stabcast almost immediately.
Right.
And Jay and I, who eventually turned into Jay, me, Fox, and I guess before I go further, we should say officially in the form of the actual episode, welcome to the show, Jonesy.
Hi, I'm Jonesy.
I don't think we said your name once. But it was me, Jay, Fox, and Wasky, I believe. Mm-hmm. We're like the core group of recorders.
And these are all the FTW wrestling guys.
Yeah. And Jay and I came from Happy Hour Steel Tip. And we started, I think, July 1st, that show, July 1st, 2008. But I don't think that lasted super long either. Like, I think that, I do remember that somehow it got to a point where I had to like call you guys and be like, listen, we need to stop. Or like, so I think Fox said something bad happened.
So you and I never beefed.
No.
So that was fine. You and Santoro butted heads, which it happens when there's any amount of group of people that are trying to collaborate together. There's going to be conflicts.
Yeah.
And
when you're in your early 20s, you just can't.
Oh my God,
handle that.
Right.
Like you can't handle that responsibly.
And that was Fox and I.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we're like hockey buddies now. After a long time off.
Right.
But yeah, that's what it was. Now, you and Santoro, me and Fox, we beefed, and then
we did the classic war stuff where there was voicemails back.
Oh
and
my
forth.
God, yeah, there was some like bad shit too.
And then there was one that like crossed the line where I don't know if you and I talked or I heard it, like something happened. And it crossed the line.
Yeah,
where
it was Fox making fun of my recently dead dad.
Hey, I didn't want to say it.
No, that's fine. Dude, I don't care. Like we're good. We reconciled. We were stupid 22-year-olds.
Yeah, and so I remember like
actually,
right.
and I feel bad even bringing it up because I don't like if he hears this.
He won't.
I don't want anybody to think he's an asshole. He's a good dude.
Yeah. Oh no. It's and I'm sure Fox and I have crossed similar lines with each other where we were against each other at one point or another. But him and I we don't talk on a regular basis anymore. But like a few years ago, we reconnected over like trying to find all these wrestling videos that we used. That everyone knows that's listening to the show. I used to wrestle, so we professionally and.
You
I
drew money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, even the organization did.
I
don't know what everybody's share was, but
mine went right back into the organization.
It was a legitimate business. Yeah.
And but we reconnected to try to like get all those videos together and so we could have like a complete collection of our professional days from like FTW show 1 to NWA Black and Blue the last show, which was like I was part of. Like somehow I missed the first couple shows because I had a broken ankle, so I couldn't wrestle in the thing that I helped start. And then I did some FTW shows that led into the Black and Blue shows, and then the last show I wrestled at was like April 9th ish of 2009, I believe. 2009? No. Yeah, it had to be 2009. It was
the late aughts.
Yeah, it was. I believe that was the year. That was the thing that me, C-Rob, Tom, and
C-Rob, who's kind of, but not really my cousin.
Yeah. He's another guy who, I mean, I talk to him probably out. See, I don't count Mike or Dave as like FTW guys, right?
They transcend every aspect of your life.
But outside of them, because I don't count them, I guess C-Rob and Nubius Black are the two guys that I talk to the most, and I don't talk to them that often. Yeah, I don't know. I think he goes by that. He was hosting a podcast for quite some time, but his best friend passed away last year, a little over a year ago. And he hasn't really kicked back into it. And we've talked back and forth about like me helping him out with some stuff because he's not a tech. He's like got a decade on us or more. But he's a youthful 50-something-year-old. Spry. Yeah.
Black don't crack. Nubius Black don't crack.
So Rodney, I think he's probably, I mean, he's on Facebook as Rodney. So I think it's Rodney Nubius Black. Insert last name. I'm not going to blow his spot right now, but
you just doxed him.
Yeah, I guess with those three names. But I mean, he's a professional wrestler.
Some crack detective work will really bust this case wide open.
But so how did we get all the way? Oh, so yeah, Fox and I, reconciled over finding shows. But yeah, it was and then also the way Creepcast kind of ended and blew up was John Redding joined the show. Did someone else join the show? I feel like someone else joined the show that was part of like, not like the Fox side of wrestling, but like the Waski and Redding side of wrestling, I think. Or they went, because we took some time off and they did the other show because me and Jay both had to like take time off or something. Okay. So they did what the other show hosted by Creepcast or something.
It was literally called The Other Show, right?
100% It was called The Other Show, which they then took and somehow started doing shows for, I think it was just Sirius at the time. I don't think they had merged yet with XM, but and they were doing legitimate shows, and I'm like, and at that time I'm like, okay, so I split from Santoro and Jonesy, and the Stabcast takes off on Stickcam. Somehow these guys do their own thing, and now they're away from me, and they split off and do their own thing with Sirius. I'm like, I'm just a launching pad.
Right, that's fine, and that's fine. You can just create and then don't meddle.
Yeah, and I get none of the benefits. Though, I mean, once I joined the Stabcast, which is funny, I remember you and I met for something, and you're like, yo, so everyone wants to know if you can like fill in for 5 weeks. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And like there was a legitimate contract and everything.
Yeah, that checks out.
And I got like a share of the royalties of that show. I remember
$7 a month.
It was not, I mean, it eventually got up to like $10 to $15 a month.
Yeah, that was after our vitamin water sponsorship. We got free vitamin water that we would have to drink and talk about on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, we were like early influencers.
Yeah, I mean, and this is still a time where I think we've reduced, I mean, I guess we still had 2 computers, right? Mm-hmm. Did we have the third one for calls? I think so. I think there was still a VoIP machine.
Right.
And then, but he had upgraded some of his equipment to like stuff that is far too advanced even for me, and it's really great for like a built-in studio.
If you're gonna set it up, leave it, have people coming in and out. Exactly.
Right. I still, but I can do this. Like even this could be, as I point to the listeners, my Zoom is great for like in studio stuff as we're doing because it's portable.
And so I haven't been in the tech side of podcasting for a long time. I've done a lot of marketing and producing of it on the other side, not actually like making it and recording it. So like this device here, that really is game changing because in my mind, just seeing the evolution, it's either you have the elaborate setup or you record it on a phone. And that really bridges the gap right there because it's, enough technology to make it sound good and have enough control and, the equalizer, all that good stuff. Without having, a freaking 18-channel Behringer mixer.
And I'm huge on, the ability to have multiple tracks. And I don't know if that comes from when I would assist Santoro with like editing the Stabcast or using his stuff to help record Happy Hour 2.0 and then having my own files. I mean, and editing, I am a terrible editor because my editing comes from a live mindset.
That's probably not something you should admit when one of your core products of Starboard Media is podcast production.
Okay, let me rephrase. I'm a great editor. I don't do the full shebang on my own show because I come from a very live mindset, right? So like when I'm editing an actual play tabletop role playing game for the uninitiated in podcasting.
I was uninitiated. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So those type of shows or scripted shows or stuff like that. Obviously, that's time intensive editing, right?
Right.
My editing process for a show like this is very much let me see if there's any pops or peaks or whatnot that I want to like get rid of so that I don't blow people's ears out. Yeah, we don't have pop filters today. And let me get rid of any kind of like awkward silence gaps, which you don't really get like in person like this. It's literally going to be, let me equalize everything. Because like I have it pretty equal right now, but I'll just equalize both tracks. Add an intro, add an outro, maybe a commercial in the middle of the show, and then we're done.
Sweet. What commercial?
It will probably be just a mid-roll of me saying, listen to my show.
Okay.
Or plugging Starboard Media or something like that.
Got it. Starboard Media for all your podcast production
Right.
and propagation needs.
Yes. And website needs, though I guess that's a conflict with my guest today.
It's actually not. We can talk about that for a couple of minutes too.
And then also t-shirt stuff I do as well.
Right.
They're like the three core things.
I don't do that. Well, I do, but I'm not monetizing it except for this hoodie that I literally made that you're looking at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's really very shiny.
yeah, it's that sparkly vinyl HTV.
Yeah.
It's my favorite material. Wow, I sound soft as shit saying that.
I am I love using like screen printed transfers because it's easy. I don't have to weed, and it's like a nice quality. Though there's some other stuff that I'm like trying to experiment with. But
I'll bet anybody who's listening to this did not expect us to turn into like mommy crafting hour. We're talking about weeding and and all that stuff.
That's never. I can honestly say it's never come up in Everything Is Awesome.
Oh, nice.
This is the first.
I'm happy to be breaking this ground for you here.
It is a crafting first here on
Yeah.
Everything Is Awesome.
And we need to get some affiliates for Cricket and Cameo Silhouette.
Yeah.
We need to do some affiliate stuff since we're shilling for them right now.
They should just pay us money.
Yeah.
And, I've always wanted because I've put on a bunch of live shows, since starting Everything Is Awesome. I've helped with the Philadelphia Podcast Festival. Kind of now I'm kind of taking that over. My meeting that was supposed to be yesterday about it had to be postponed yet again for an emergency, not my side. But we're like moving forward with like the new era of that festival, hopefully in the spring. But I've done like individual live shows too since then. Like 2016 to 2017 was like probably the highlight of podcasting for me, where I did the festivals for Philadelphia Podcasting Festival, and then I did like every other month I was doing a live show somewhere, and it was and the way we did it was me. Everything Is Awesome, and then an opener because I was the main event for some reason, which for no other reason than like I'm putting it together.
Well,
so.
in that era, the 2016, 2017, you were prolific as hell, like multiple shows and all the live stuff.
Even that stuff, probably I wasn't doing too many shows. I think I was focused on Everything Is Awesome for the most part.
It felt like it. Weren't you guesting in other stuff too?
Oh, I was guesting for
Yeah.
sure. I was doing like guest spots on other podcasts. I probably in 2016 and 2017, I probably had the most guest spots on another person's podcast ever before.
Got it.
Yeah, I especially because of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival. Like I would around June, July, August, the summer, I would like go. I mean, I was on. There was a what radio channel was it? 104.5. I don't know if it was one of the Philly channels. I went to I don't know if it was for the 2016 festival or the 2017 festival, but I went to Bryn Mawr to one of the radio stations there, and I did like a quick interview spot that airs like a Saturday morning on their station and it was available in a podcast form. That was the coolest thing. That certainly was the coolest thing I think I've ever done. Was I went and sat in like an actual radio station,
like a soundproof studio with the glass divider. And
well, I saw that room, and then we sat in. I believe her name was Christy something. And we sat in her office to record it was a podcast.
Right.
But they did air it on Saturday mornings. And I woke up that morning early as shit on a Saturday morning to listen to myself on 104.5 or 102.1, one of the local stations here in Philadelphia. That's probably one of the coolest things that have like stemmed from being a podcaster was to be on an actual radio station.
And that's almost like surreal. So like with your podcast audience, you're probably hitting bigger numbers than anybody listening to the live radio that day.
Oh yeah.
But it's that paradigm of holy shit, I'm on the radio.
And like I have a weird thing about numbers in the podcasting game because we come from I mean, most of my podcasting career was on Stickcam. Even though I've been doing Everything is Awesome probably longer than Happy Hour and the Stabcast, I've taken a lot of time off with Everything is Awesome versus those shows. And I mean, I think I was on the Stabcast for 200 plus episodes. I did nearly 200 episodes of Happy Hour before I kind of Happy Hour 2.0 before I kind of stopped that show. And we were hitting, a slow day was 10,000 views an hour on Stickcam. And the Stabcast, if they featured us, we were hitting like 1 million views.
Stickcam.
What happened to that?
What happened to it? Yeah.
Oh.
It turned into Patreon and OnlyFans?
No. I don't remember the complete gist, but they were shitty moderators.
Okay.
And something about a creator potentially drugging somebody and taking advantage of them while on air happened. And they got shut down big time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know about that. I thought maybe they just became irrelevant when YouTube, and all the other platforms did more live streaming features.
I mean, I think that would have been regardless what happened to them because at the time you had Stickcam, you broadcast, Justin TV, which eventually I think turned into Twitch. And there was like another one, but there was like 3 or 4, and YouTube was doing live stuff, but it wasn't nearly as it is today. Right. But Stickcam was like the biggest. Like we would experiment, Santoro and I, on all the other channels, and no numbers. Part of that reason was we had we were in with and I forget the dude's name, but we were in with a couple people at Stickcam that would feature us as long as there was nothing else going on. Mm-hmm. And they approached me when we were doing the Zomcast. I think I called it at the time. It was called the Walking Dead Zomcast before AMC sent me a cease and desist.
Oh, did they really?
Well, so partially my fault. Chris Hardwick, who is a terrible human being, and I will forever, ever sour his name given the chance. And not because he allegedly was terrible to his once upon a time girlfriend, who I forget her name of, but just because he's a legitimate dick, and he, to me, you don't throw people under the bus, especially when I don't know, I'm not really. I guess, is it wrong for me to use The Walking Dead in the title of my podcast? Maybe, but there was literally The Walking Dead podcast hosted by no one affiliated with The Walking Dead. Let's not. Anyway, I emailed Chris Hardwick because he was bringing Nerdist to Philly. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I sent his people an email. I was like, oh, this is great. I don't know if you have an opener. This is when I was trying to get more live stuff done at a time where the last time I did it was Doc Watson's with Happy Hour. So I emailed his people. I was like, I would love to open we're a Philly podcast. I'd love to do something with right now. One of my most popular shows is the Walking Dead Zomcast. I would love to do something with that show. And then 24 hours later, I got a cease and desist from AMC lawyers, and we quickly changed the title to the show to simply the Zomcast. The
Zomcast, okay.
Yeah,
just because the usage of the name.
Yeah, I just
not the format of the show or anything.
Yeah, no, the format. We still talked about the Walking Dead, though. Matt from Robots and Race Cars, Matthew from Robot and Race Cars, he no longer did the show after that. It was just me and Emily were doing the show. Mm-hmm. Emily Reed were doing the show, and it was that only lasted for a few more weeks before it kind of settled down.
Fizzled.
It just I think that cease and desist took a lot out of me. I was like, this is fucked up.
It'll do that to you. Yeah.
So, happy to say it's the only cease and desist I ever got, and it made it so that anytime I had a show that was like me and Mike Once Upon a Time did podcast for the Once Upon a Time show, so we had the unofficial Once Upon a Time podcast.
Okay.
So whenever I did a show that had anything to do with recapping a TV show, I always put the unofficial name of show podcast in there.
Well, apropos, you're wearing the OG Mickey Mouse T-shirt right now, so why don't we just make the Steamboat Willie Happy Hour with Steel Tip Everything is Awesome show?
When I threw this shirt on today, I was like, I could totally take Steamboat Willie and and I won't call him Mickey, obviously, but I could have Willie be a mascot for Everything is Awesome.
Absolutely. I think you should, at least for this episode. At least for this episode, put that on the graphic. I had fun with that a couple weeks ago with a few of my clients. I do marketing stuff. It's a really reductionist way of saying what I do, but it was a trend. Everybody throwing Steamboat Willie and everything. And these producers actually made a full feature horror movie of Steamboat Willie, which I've yet to check out. But I love that shit. I love meme culture.
There is 2 horror movies coming out with Steamboat Willie. One that we saw the trailer for, which is very much in the same vein as Blood and Honey, Winnie the Pooh, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Very much in the same vein where it's just like a dude wearing a mask, right? But apparently there's another one that seems like it's more like, this is just a giant mouse that ferries beings across a river, but like also murders them or something like that. I don't know the full gist of that. And then there's also a game where you can play as a like zombified Willie. It's crazy. And I am the one thing I can say about 2024, even though I haven't written a lot of words, I've been doing a lot more planning for the book that I've been working on I'm 39, so for 17, 20 years, or whatever, 23 years, I think. I've been working on for a really long time, and I'm finally making like the most headway on it that I ever have. And I told Mike, I was like, fuck it. I want to create because it's a sci-fi series, I'm going to create an alien species of mice humanoids. And you damn well better believe I want to have a character named Willie.
Yep.
That is going to be in a steamboat airship that's going to come and rescue some characters or something.
Steampunk Willie.
Yeah, it is. So that's definitely happening.
Thanks for reminding me that we're going to be 40 this year.
Yeah.
It was a little early in the week for my weekly existential crisis, yet here we are.
You know, it's funny. It's talking to a few people about that. Like Mike turned 40 last year.
Mm-hmm. Ancient. Just straight up ancient.
And then our buddy Dave, he turned 40 a few weeks ago, like the end of December. But it's Mike. I don't think he doesn't at least show it when I see him or talk to him. Like he's like it's affecting him. Like, oh shit, I'm 40.
Well, because he's got a delightful, luscious, full head of hair.
Yeah.
That has abandoned me a long time ago.
Yeah, abandoned me a long. I was looking at LordHair.com.
Well, I was looking at BickRazors.com, but continue. What is LordHair.com?
And it's because I saw it on TikTok. Some guy who's probably younger than us and bald as well. And it looks like a really good toupee that you could like keep on for a couple weeks. I'm like, let me look at this Lord hair. And it's expensive. And I mean, like it's like $300 for like the basic hair.
Get a sponsorship. Let's try it out.
I would love to if Lord Hair is listening to this. As a bald man, if you can send me one of your fine toupees styled as a faux hawk,
we're going throwback.
Yeah, I would 100% try it out and give you an endorsement, assuming that it's not. And it seems like it's time consuming to like put on.
Oh wow!
But
then time for that.
But you keep it on for a couple weeks. You can wash your hair. You can shampoo your hair. You can get it if you get like the unstyled one. You can go to a barber and get it cut how you want. And it's like tape and glue and shit that you have to use.
And then you pull it off 3 weeks later and your head's full of blackheads because your pores are all clogged up.
No, because it's whatever the material is, it breathes. The dude says I work out, so I sweat a lot, and it's a breathing material. I don't know. Lord Hair, hit me up.
Lord Hair. That sounds like a brand name that Laszlo Cravensworth from What We Do in the Shadows would come up with.
I'm only a few episodes into that show, but it's funny. At that nerdy Kev, Lord Air, at that nerdy Kev, on your social media of choice, preferably Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, assuming that's not burning to the ground yet, or TikTok. That's probably DM me on TikTok, Lord Air.
So, do we refer to you as that nerdy Kev? What is your preferred moniker?
Kev.
Got it. That's easy.
Yeah. I have obviously abandoned the steel tip name,
but it's forever in history.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're not losing
for
it.
sure. I mean, it came up at work when Mike started. Not that I ever hit it. Like people, like if it never came up that I wrestled, right? Like some of our bosses knew because Dave wrestled with us and he works there. And like he talked about it before I even started. Like he just talked about it. But only a select few people knew about it because Dave was always with like the admin people. So there's only a few people in earshot whenever he would talk about it. Me and Mike, we sit down in like the area with everybody. So like and Mike is no one's ever asked me, "Hey, so you wrestled?" Like no one would. Why would anyone ask that, right? I don't know how Mike brought it up. Maybe it's something about my hair. Maybe I think that's what it was. He was talking to people at work while I was remote one day, and he's like, "Did you know Kev used to have shoulder length hair?" And then he pulled up a picture of it, but it was me wrestling. He couldn't find a picture. He pulled up a video of wrestling. He's like,
as one does when you're talking about just how long your hair used to be back in the day. Well, it turns out we happen to have videos of Kev's professional wrestling career.
And so like people it's funny like that people, it's a thing now, and then like they're like, wait, what was his name? Steel Tip? I'm like, yes,
the Heartbreak Kev.
I for a short period of time in the backyard I was Heartbreak Kev.
Okay.
And that was because why did I do that? I think I started out as Heartbreak Kev.
Because Elvis writes some catchy tunes? I don't know.
It was definitely a homage to Shawn Michaels, for sure. And by homage, I mean straight theft.
Straight ripoff. Right,
yeah.
right.
But I think I started in the backyard as that. And then I don't know the storyline that happened, but I then became Steel Tip.
Tell us more about Shadow.
Oh, God. Shadow is a
or not. We don't want
terrible,
we don't want you to be canceled.
Yeah, terrible point in time. Like we all have our past.
We made stupid choices.
We all had our James Gunn moment, right? Like so.
Yeah.
So.
And look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's doing great. He's in charge of DC now.
So Marvel, when you need a new Kev to be in charge of Marvel because Feige is done, I'm your Kev. Just that's the thing.
Wait, is he done?
No. But when he is, you need to still have a Kev.
You have to have a Kevin, yeah.
We've decided. I'm deciding that right now, and yes, you could go to Kevin Smith.
Dude, you're wearing Disney. You're a loyalist already. We got a company man right here.
I am a corporate shill. You want me to throw this podcast away? You want me to change it to everything is Disney? Done. I will sell out in a heartbeat. How did we get here?
Welcome to Disney. Bring money.
Yeah. So I don't. You asked me about the H6 and podcasting, and this is what everything. So for the uninitiated to this podcast, if you've chosen to tune into episode 2 of season 2 and neglect the previous 170 to 190 episodes of this show, we go on tangents on this show.
Wait, so all 170 whatever episodes are just season 1?
Yeah, so I was doing weekly. So here's I burn out easily, and partially because I'm not good with taking my medicine.
Got to sharpen the saw, buddy. Take some time. Take some downtime.
Yeah, so that's and I explained this in last week's episode with Mike, but we're doing a seasonal thing now. So like I'm going to take summers off, save for like I don't know if you listen to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, wonderful podcast if you're a Conan O'Brien fan. But now I don't think he actually takes time off, but like summer break, they do summer s'mores, and it's like a really laid back, like him and his 2 like co-hosts / producers or whatever, just sitting back, drinking, eating pizza or eating whatever, having s'mores. and they record like for one night 4 or 5 hours, and it's their 4 to 5 episode limited series in the summer.
So it's like very low stakes. Like you, listener, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
this is not going to be the quality show that we would put during the regular season.
Right,
I mean,
right.
but it's still freaking Conan O'Brien.
However, I'm going kind of the opposite route in like, at least for the first, like this summer, I without giving too much away, I believe I'm going to be putting together a limited series actual play that I want to see if people are into, because it's a re-release of a classic RPG series, tabletop role-playing game series, that was super successful on Kickstarter. If you want to know, I can tell you off air, because I'm not going to go back and edit it out.
Nope, not at all. No, yes, we will discuss.
But I want to do like a 5-episode like origin story to some of the characters that I have an idea for, to move forward with like an actual production, and if that gets legs, I want to kickstart the first season of that. So that's what this first year's the plan is. If I can get people together, the budget's going to be small enough to where I can afford to do it out of pocket, and
take out a $500,000 SBA loan. Just really go full ham on this thing.
Go full ham.
Yeah.
But,
take out a second mortgage. You'll be fine.
Right. But yeah, going seasonal. So I'll be taking the summers. I'll like pretty much now. This year we're running January through June-ish with our like State of the Pod, July 1st, and then like a mid-July to late to mid-August like summer session that we're doing, and then kick it back off in September
for the school year. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I mean, summer, everyone in my household is off in the summer, so like it's hard for me to record at home as it is. We're on vacation. Like so I usually take anywhere between a week to 3 weeks of vacation in the summer.
That's badass.
So yeah, I'm just it's terrible for work because that's budget time, and I run all the reports for budget.
That's a them problem.
Sometimes if we're not going anywhere fancy, sometimes I say, listen, if you let me work from the cabin, then I'll the
Wi-Fi is cutting out. It's terrible.
But yeah, so that's the plan with this show. The very quick and dirty plan for this show is seasonal, and that's how I plan on like averting my burnout with the show, because podcasting, for anyone's like, I want to get into this game, it's just a passion of love. It's very few of us that get into Mark Maron or Conan O'Brien or Kevin Smith numbers, or
I'm shooting right for Joe Rogan stats. I don't know about you.
Oh, and so this is how this is how we got here. So we at some point we were talking about numbers because of Stickcam. And back then, like I podcasted for all the wrong reasons. I think most of us did in the early 2000s, or I guess late 2000s. But you know, I wanted to be I'm going to be a full-time podcaster. I'm going to make my mint on podcasting and internet radio. And numbers were so important, right? But now I do not pay attention to that. Very, very, unless I'm trying to get an advertiser. But your average podcast, like if you make it past 10 episodes, you're doing better than like 70% of the podcasts out there.
Like a first year in business, right?
Right.
50% fail. If you make it past there, then you've hit a threshold of
success
and continuation.
Right. And then like it's like think 20 or 25 or 50. I forget what the next milestone is that I read this number on, but like even fewer get to that. And on top of that, all these most podcasts get about 150 downloads per episode in like a month time frame, something like that. So if your numbers are anywhere between like 100 and 200, you're doing good. Like
you're doing well. Superman does good.
You're doing well. Grammar police. I'm a writer.
Oh, well then the squiggly red line just flashed on your screen. So
I am straight up a writer, and I bad grammar.
So, Kev, you just gave me a really good segue to one of my businesses here. I don't know if you knew you were throwing me that line.
No.
But what if I could show you a way to surpass that 150 download mark and start getting into the thousands and possibly even millions?
Let me follow that with a follow-up question. Are they legitimate listeners?
Well, why are you questioning the character of the listeners?
I wonder. I've heard that Apple's also changed how the numbers are now. Like a lot of people's numbers have gone down because Apple changed something, and I don't know what it is.
Why, that's one particular platform. If you've got a good propagation and social media presence, and I can show you how to do this, Kev.
Do it. Now.
Well, you're going to go to conversionchemistry.com.
Oh, this is just a straight plug. Okay.
Where my partner and I have released 15 hours worth of marketing content to show you how to reach millions by using the web, automations, and social medias, by either being the influencer or partnering up with the right influencers. Conversionchemistry.com. Now, Kev, since you are going to be running my podcast side of my business of this new building I bought that, we've talked about, and, I'm burying the lead here, but we'll talk about that more as the season progresses and you invite me back for another episode. You're running that particular part of the business for podcast production. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you free access to this conversion chemistry course for life.
For listeners, you didn't see me do that. Yes!
Oh, he did a big old fist pump. So not only is it this, this course from my partner, who is like one of the OG digital marketers, Frank Guerin. He's got 26, 27 years of experience. So while we were dabbling in GeoCities, this guy was making 10 G's a month as an internet marketer.
GeoCities.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Remember that bullshit?
Yeah. My site may still be under construction. I've got the construction worker GIF going right now. Any day now, we're going to launch.
I remember GeoCities or whatever it was, like whatever the geocities.ftw.com or whatever. And then there was like geocities.tellist. There was geocities.kev. Or .steeltip or some shit.
Right, because we were too cheap to buy our own domains when we were 17 years old, which $13 a year. We were like, oh, well, we could spend money on Mad Dog 2020.
And now I literally dropped $25 on mayoroflevittown.com and levittownmayor.com.
Wait, you have those?
Yes.
Why aren't we doing something with that?
I am.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
I'm creating a... No, I'm creating... I don't know if you know this, Jonesy. There's a special election coming up.
Tell me more.
For Levittown, for our district. Because
is there really?
At least for my district. I don't know if we're in the same district or not.
We live a mile apart, so I'm not sure.
I don't know how district lines work, but John Galloway is now a judge. He took over for Judge Vislansky. I don't know.
Edit point.
Not an edit point.
Okay.
I'm going to butcher that name. It's going to be on record. She was a wonderful judge, did great work with the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts, and was a wonderful lady who is finally retired. But John Galloway won that election to become the judge. So his spot and his office is by the 7-Eleven on New Falls Road and by Pennsbury.
Man, our California listeners are so into this right now.
Well, it's about anyway. Special election for our district on 2/13/2021. If you live in District 140, I believe, in Pennsylvania, make sure you go out there and vote. Anyway, because of that, I was texting my wife, and she texted me to let me know schools are off for the special election. I was like, I know, I'm running. She's like, what?
Oh, hold up. So you're just dropping this right now to me and everybody else.
And I was like, yeah, I'm running for mayor of Levittown. To which, folks, there is no mayor of Levittown.
Levittown is not a municipality.
Yeah. So anyway, I am using the mayoroflevittown.com/levittownmayor.com to create a satirical campaign site for myself as the mayor of Levittown.
Oh my God, why did I not know about this until right now?
But I'm also making it very clear that it's a satirical site, and I'm also pushing the idea that local elections matter and that you should go out and vote.
And that's great, and that is very important, and I like that you can tie humor into it, as things should be, because man, that is politics and elections, they are very divisive,
yes.
And that's not likely to change anytime soon,
right.
But no matter which side you land on, you got to get out there and vote. That's your voice.
And very specifically in the local elections, and this shockingly is not the first time we've gone on a political rant on this show, but local elections I think are so much more important. Obviously the general election, especially the one that's every 4 years, for the president, that's important. But generally speaking, whoever is the president of the United States likely isn't going to affect your day-to-day life. Maybe when there's a certain person with a certain attitude, with a certain hatred towards folks. Obviously, I come from a place of privilege as a white man, so I say that from a place of privilege that maybe it's not so much the president that's really going to determine your day-to-day life. It's your local leaders that are going to determine that. So, and you'll find that if you talk to your community, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, you probably have the same wants for your community, and that's just you want it to be a better community. You want it to be safer. You want it to be a great place for your kids to live and grow up. So you'll find that you have more in common, despite what certain people will tell you, and your local leaders are going to get shit done for you. And politics is not trickle down, in my opinion. Politics is something that you build up from the ground up, and changes that happen locally will hopefully eventually build up to better the not just your community, but your regional community, your state, and hopefully on a federal level too. That's my opinion, at least.
Well said. Trickle down is a farce. Plants are watered at the roots.
Yeah,
and they grow from there.
Yeah,
you don't water plants from the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else they burn in the sun.
Right. So, as a final message, make sure you go out there and every election vote for go out and vote. You can take maybe like a day to really research your candidates, and if there's something you have follow-up questions on, every local politician will engage with you for sure. And they live in your community, so they have, just like you, they have the best interest for your community in their heart. Sometimes it comes from a misguided place, but is what it is. That's why you have to go out there and vote and make sure you get your voice heard.
Use your voice. Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, Levittown. So yes, I do have those domains.
The mayor of Levittown. Okay.
It's Mayor of Levittown. And funny enough, you know what? We'll save that story for.
Where are we at on time?
We are about 50 minutes in, and I think you have 30 minutes left before you have your heart out. So anyway, so you were talking about GeoCities and your partner who was making thousands while we were dicking around on GeoCities.
Right, doing it all for ha-has. And that's basically it. So we have a partnership now, and we're trying to teach entrepreneurs and marketers around the world how we did it. Now, I'm not, as successful as he's been, but my story is not completely written yet. I am I call myself a serial entrepreneur. I've built a few businesses in the past few years, which are profitable. And, instead of, I do like doing some of the grunt work still every day. Like it's what I enjoy. And
right.
That's the one question is, I have to answer, any entrepreneur's answer is, what do you want to do when you get up every day? So it is definitely a combination of doing some bitch work, which I like to stay involved because I stay learning. And we're talking in the marketing space, really.
Right.
But then showing others how I did it.
Right.
Because I rising tides, rise all ships, all that stuff. At the end of the day, I'll still make money off of it.
Right.
It's a paid membership site, and, people will hire me to be their consultant.
Yeah. But
if I can help 1,000 people instead of 10, I'm going to take that route all day long.
Right.
Conversionchemistry.com. In fact, you know what? So it's $47 a month to join that our membership, which we're putting more content every month. And when I say content, I mean like PLR, templates. I've got a whole AI lab, which I know some of your feelings on AI, yeah. But my stance on AI is that it's meant to basically be an employee.
Right.
It's not meant to replace people. It's meant to do the work of 3 or 4 people, get rid of grunt work. And we as managers leverage that. So there's a whole bunch of prompt engineering on this site, and it's take my email templates, take my swipe files, take my scripts, and go run and make money with it.
Right.
Every month we're dropping more. So, all right, that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, that's the price to be a member. Anybody listening to this episode, go on, buy yourself a lifetime membership, which we usually charge $2,000 for. I'll give it to you for 90% off, which is $197. Use coupon code AWESOME2024.
There you go, folks. Now, just to let you know, this episode does not go live until sometime in February.
Thank God, because my laptop's sitting right here. I can't get on my mom's internet. Yeah, that's a real good look, too. We're recording this in my mom's basement. Ha, no, we're not. There's no basements in Levittown.
Funny enough, there is, because I have one.
You do, but you're not real Levittown. You're like adjunct Falls.
You can't say that. I'm running for mayor of Levittown.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Edit point. Dump. So we're couch surfing right now, Kev and I, because I literally bought a building that we're going to turn into a studio in near LaSalle University in Philly. We're months away from that thing being done. My home office is being worked on right now, so that's useless.
And my basement, which is my home studio, is literally just, I need to get ready for Christmas. Dump, 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 dump. And every box I own in the house is down in my basement. And I won't be down there in quite some time to get that set up.
So we're couch surfing right now.
But I do a lot of remote recording, and I know you said like it's not the same vibe, and to a degree that's true. And this is kind of going back to, I guess, podcasting and podcasting in 2024. I think it's less true now than it was back in the day. Especially if it's someone that you know. Like when it's someone you don't know, it's a guest that's you have no real knowledge of, or at least personal knowledge of. It could be a little like I don't know what's the word, a little fake sounding.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's like stilted.
Yeah. It can be. Now I tend to say, like, I'm a terrible interviewer. You can go listen to my Fat Baby Leg interview. I think that's part of the 10-year anniversary show. I think I included that.
Again, really way to sell yourself. Starboard Media, podcasting extraordinaire.
I'm not going to interview people for you, but I'm a great conversationalist, right? Like I think that my strength is in long form conversation. That's why Everything Is Awesome is a long form conversation show, not necessarily a long form interview show. And at the heart of that is an interview where we're getting to know the guests, or through story and through just having a conversation. Everything Is Awesome really came from the desire to have a new co-host every week, because it was so hard, as you know, especially as we're getting older, to get a group of people together to sit down and record.
Sure.
Or to even get two people together to sit down and record.
Yeah, this took us how long when we live a mile apart? And we still almost considered doing it remote today. I'm like, no, there's no way.
But like on the flip side, Mike and I did record, because we also live probably less than a mile apart. Yeah. And we did record it remote last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, because it's simply easier, especially when like there's chaos at my house.
Right.
There's definitely chaos at his house, because he is chaos. Inside joke for people.
Is it though?
I mean, my listeners might know.
I mean, it's Tellus. It's well known.
Oh well, so yeah. There's a.
So we're not talking about chaos from Tellus. We're talking about chaos from FTW, the wrestling.
Well, both, I guess. All right. But like, it's even that. I mean, here's another tangent. There's a whole like timeline, like new timeline thing going on in the world of Tellus, where chaos does exist in the old timeline, but not in the new timeline. He doesn't have that nickname in the new timeline. Go read Tellus books, tellus.com, for all that. If you like sword and sorcery, fantasy, X-Men, comic books, and stuff like that, you'll love Tellus. Go tellus.com. I believe Mike suggests starting off with Mageborn, which I believe is a free book. You can get that for free by either signing up for his newsletter or, I think that's how you get it for free. So go to tellus.com, sign up for a newsletter, get a free book, and enjoy the world of Tellus. The world is in your hands.
We don't need a break for commercials. We've been doing it this whole time. That's great.
All unpaid commercials. But but him and I, I think the same would have been true for you and I. Like, being remote, I think would have led to the same or similar conversation, regardless of us being in person. Or
right, because of the relationship.
Right,
there.
Yeah. So, and like you said, but I mean, hell, Everything Is Awesome came from the need of wanting to, like, the need of not having a co-host, because it was impossible to get together. And not for nothing, two buddies sitting around talking. One of my favorite genres of podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Even if I don't know them. That's why I love Smodcast so much, even though they don't do that anymore. So I guess why I loved Smodcast so much. Listen to Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier talk was fantastic. I've listened to like indie podcasts where it's just two friends that I barely know. Like, I might know one person a little bit, but they have a podcast and I'll give it a listen. Love it. I found Strangers that way, like Strangers podcast that way. Love that genre. But there are so many two bros with a microphone podcasts that just sit around and talk, right? So Everything Is Awesome came from the need of wanting to replicate that but in a way that was a little bit different. And I happen to know enough people, as I have trouble booking guests in this season 2 era of podcasting, but I happen to know a lot of people that are like interesting, creative people who have been great guests, and I go to and I have them on the show and whatnot. So it's that's what I like. I don't know how I got to why Everything's Awesome this week. That's why Everything's Awesome exists, is because I couldn't get Mike to go on a microphone once a week with me.
And thank God for Everything is Awesome, because for 2 straight years, that was the podcast I would listen to while I mowed my lawn. And then Everything is Awesome stopped, so I hired somebody to mow my lawn because I couldn't handle it anymore. And as one of my only sources of working out, I got fat directly after that. So now it's back. This is the year. I'm going to get shredded. I'm going to get a Bowflex. I'm going to drink water.
I honestly, now at 39 and in 2024, the type of podcasts I listen to the most now are those actual play podcasts that I mentioned, because they're just so fun. And one of my favorites that really got me hooked is, well, locally was Jeff Stormer's Party of One podcast. It's such a unique podcast in that space because it's 2-player games. 2-player role playing games, very intimate games, laughs, drama, tears sometimes, and it's just Party of One is truly doing something that no other podcast is doing out there, specifically in the actual play space, because it's like it's a lot like Everything is Awesome, where there is an interview buried in this show somewhere. And same thing with Party of One. It's an actual play podcast that has like an interview buried into it somewhere. Most actual play shows are very polished sounding. Not that Party of One isn't. Jeff and his wife / producer put a lot of time and energy to make it sound good. But the other ones are like extremely polished and made for like you're listening to a fictional story right now. And sometimes you don't hear like the roles, and sometimes you don't hear like the table talk, which you do in Party of One, which I think is extremely important because that makes it more of an actual play. Like
it's that authenticity check right there.
But the podcast that helped me get me that Jeff recommended to me was Campaign Podcast. Right now they're doing a storyline called Skyjacks, but the original Campaign Pod from so many years ago was a Star Wars actual play podcast. The cast is amazing. They're so funny. It's such a great story. And I started listening to it when my uncle was sick. And as people that listen to the show, that have listened to the show since the beginning know, like my uncle was a super influential person in my life. And like my love of Star Wars comes from him. Among most things in my pop culture life, a lot of that stems from him. So when things were bad and things were getting worse with him, Campaign Star Wars was there to make me laugh and make me kind of forget about it for an hour or two at a time. Right. Especially since like I was catching up. I was listening to it from like 2 years after it started or something like that. So I was listening to a lot of stuff and back to back to kind of just shut the world out at that time. And so that's like a great, if you need to get into an actual play podcast and you want to laugh and like be in a genre that I know you like with Star Wars, like that's a great show. Go back to Campaign Star Wars. Otherwise, I mean, that's my jam. I listened to like Nad Pod. I listened to One Shot. I listened to All My Fantasy Children, which is like a adjacent tabletop podcast. It's a character creation podcast.
This is a lot of content.
Yeah.
When and how?
Yeah. I have a lot. I'm behind on a lot. Like I have several episodes of New Heights that I'm behind on. Several episodes of.
That's not answering the question.
When and how? Just whenever I have time.
Okay, in the car, like.
In the car when I'm. Well, not mowing the grass because it's winter, but when I'm cutting the grass, when I'm shoveling, sometimes if when I'm working remote, if I need something on in the background, I'll throw a podcast on when I'm cleaning the house. And it's like right now I'm in more of a creative mode than I am a
consumption
mode.
Yeah.
So I'm far behind on a lot of my podcasts. The ones I'm not are the ones that I need to listen to so that I'm caught up, and that's Party of One. my actual plays. My interview shows, I'm very far behind. Despite doing one and hosting one, they're the ones that I kind of listen to last now, because I don't know. I get more entertainment out of the scripted stuff. Well, it's unscripted stuff, but the fictional stuff.
Right.
So anyway, that's my plug for actual play podcasts.
There we go. Commercial number 4.
Yeah. So I feel like we did a lot of catching up today.
Yes.
And very little talking about you. So aside from conversion chemistry, what else do you got going on that you want people to know about before I let you go here?
Well, I mean, I do. I have my marketing agency, which is called Marketing Agency Near Me, because I'm trying to get one over on Google.
Has that worked yet?
No, but we're a boutique agency. Most of our business is through referrals. Everything I do, every venture now, it has to have a little playfulness and fun in it. A couple of years ago, I went from being a freelancer to a full-on LLC. And I copy and pasted that model a couple times to do a few different things because I have ADD. I'm anti-niche, and for a time I was told, I can't. I got to focus. You have to niche down. You have to pick a path. Well, my path is to be having tendrils in everything because, like, everything is awesome. So much shit just interests me. I can't get pigeonholed in anything. Growing up in school, that wasn't a path that was conducive in the educational system. So that's right. The educational system failed me. There's no accountability here. It wasn't my fault. It was the system's fault. And
as mayor of Levittown, one of my core issues is addressing educational issues.
And
that's true.
That now you have my vote. That got it. But in seriousness, and I want, there's a number of people out there who are like me, and there's nothing wrong with being focused niche. Otherwise we wouldn't have doctors and lawyers.
Right.
But that's not me. And I'm finally in a space where I can monetize my ADD, helping people, and I get my jollies off of it. And, instead of 20 years ago making websites for shits and gigs, well, I'm still doing that, but now there's some income there. Like,
I really need to stop making mayoroflevittown.com and make websites for people that are paying me.
Do both. One should lead to the other.
It's funny because you're saying here spinning plate. Like, I spin so many plates and none of them make me money. But which is fine because a lot of my plates that I spin are for fun. Like, podcasting is for fun. It's not. The mindset that I had when we did Happy Hour Steel Tip was to make money. And while making money off this would be great, it's not my number one goal. That's why I don't look at numbers.
No, I understand that.
Because it is fun for me to do. Same thing with writing that I've been spinning since I was 16. So, and that book that I'm working on, especially now that, like, I'm in that creative mode, when I'm on my medication on a regular basis, it can be something that I work on. And even when I'm not on my medication, I'm working on it. It's just I'm not focusing on the writing. I'm focusing on some of the world building because I need that world building in order to tell the story.
Right.
But yeah, it's like sitting here talking about like I know for a fact I'm like undiagnosed ADD or ADHD or whatever. One of the two. I don't know which one. Definitely. I mean, there's got to be so many I hate this term, elder millennials like us that have undiagnosed AD something another.
Right. Because it wasn't extreme enough to be disruptive, but I didn't succeed as well as I could have. Or maybe I didn't need to be diagnosed or medicated, but there needed to be, an institutional path laid out, like in the educational system, for that type of mind.
Right.
And it was not.
Right.
It was not. It was pick something and stick to it.
Yeah. I you know what? I think because wrestling was such a multitude of like creative energies, like it was writing, it was storytelling, it was performance, it was improv, it was all these different things rolled up into one. And talking to like professional comedians, professional improvers and stuff, and that they enjoy wrestling so much because it has so much similar to what they do. I think that's why for so long, up until I was in my like mid 20s, I could just be kind of focused on that one thing because it checked so many boxes. And I think since like 25, 26, whatever the last time I wrestled was, or basically since I started podcasting, I've been trying to fill all those check boxes that wrestling checked for me.
Right.
Because, I do the writing, which is my storytelling aspect. I do the podcasting, which at the end of the day is my performance.
Right. It's like
piece.
the acting performance
Right.
piece. Yeah.
So it is interesting that, and I really came to this conclusion like within the last 3 months. I was like, I think wrestling, I was so focused on wrestling because it did everything.
Right.
Whereas now I got to piece it all fucking together. Anyway.
Well, no, I mean, look, it's, yeah, it really is. I mean, there are different segments to what you're doing, but at the end of the day, even if you just isolate it to podcasting, that should, I mean, I'm not saying that you should be fulfilled by doing that, but there's planning, there's writing, there's the performance, there's
Okay. In the world of Kev podcasting, there is zero prep. All right. That's not to say that I
plugged in 1, 2, 3, 4 cables.
That's not. That one. Oh, I'm lightheaded from that one. Whew, so, like I said, it's not to say that I definitely can assist with that pre-production of a podcast, which is one of the services I offer because I have that experience from wrestling to put together a script for a show. I have that experience from wrestling and from podcasting to put together your live show, which is definitely a lot more performance than doing what we're doing right now. I just choose not to do that. And I understand that there's a mindset out there of if you're an interviewer, you need to know your guest to interview them. And I fight that with my heart and soul. If I don't know you at all, I may look at your Wikipedia page. I may Google your name, and I may get the basic information that I need to know how to talk to you. Outside of that, I love to have a conversation and discover who you are through that.
Right.
I have prepped for one interview exactly, and that was with Erin McGathy, who once upon a time was married to Dan Harmon. And she was also in a couple episodes of Community. And she is now living in Dublin, Ireland, and really successful in the comedy improv space out there. But right before she moved to Ireland, I somehow got her booked on Everything Is Awesome. And she was going through her divorce, getting ready to go on tour through America before she moved to Ireland. So caught her at the right time to get her on the show. And that, love every guest I've ever had on this show. They're all great for one reason or another. The greatest get I've ever gotten was Erin McGathy on episode 20 of Everything Is Awesome. And I recorded before she got on me being nervous as hell, and then she gets connected, and you can just hear how I kind of just flip the switch to not be nervous, which is crazy. But that is the only interview I've done the most research on because I was nervous as hell. Other than that, and I don't think I would do that again. If I got Kevin Smith on, now I know Kevin Smith enough to where I don't think I need to do my research on him. I would be nervous as hell, but I don't think.
And I would think you would want to talk to him about stuff that you can't find on Wikipedia.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So there is, and hey, I'm not knocking interviewers who interview and do the research and get prepped. That is how you should do it. That is 100% how you should do it. I find that it's more interesting to do it this way because it's a more honest conversation. And my history of having pre-written questions usually turns into a bad interview. So even when I did my research for Erin McGathy, I had a couple questions written down, but I more so had bullet points that I wanted to hit, so that again it sounded more like a natural conversation, because that's what I want the show to be, more of a natural conversation than an interview.
So do you have a framework for somebody this? You and I are easy, but if you're bringing somebody on who you have no idea and you're not going to wiki them or even look them up, do you have any sort of conversational framework even in your head that you would use?
Well, so normally I know what they do, right? For those that are listening and heard me just laugh, Jonesy looked at the time. I was like, "Shit, we're heading up. We're hitting his hard outs here soon." But I usually know at least what their industry is, and that's the leaping off point, right? So a lot of times, I try to get the early story of okay, what got you into wanting to be an actor? What was your first taste of that? Sometimes I want to go deeper, depending on who it is. So what was it like growing up in Levittown, Pennsylvania? What was it like having parents that loved you? not to imply my parents didn't love me, but what was it like to have parents that like, did they encourage you? Did they not encourage you? Because I come from a world where my family didn't encourage the wrestling. They thought it was you should go to college and have yourself a real education to go out into the field.
Same thing like what I was describing. That was the generation, and you know that was the path. That was the path he took. Right.
Yeah, and that is it works for some people. Certainly, I wish I had. And honestly, I love my uncle. He was the biggest influence on me. Mm-hmm. He's the reason I went to college for the amount of time that I did go to college. As the person that was probably the most influential on me, I wish he was more supportive of that wrestling stuff, because I may have gone full hog with it. I may have gone to an actual wrestling school. I may have traveled the country. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't regret it, because I have no regrets, because if I did, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right.
And I love where I am today. But I do wonder what it's like when I talk to people that had parents or influencers that encouraged them to do their passion. And that's something that I think our generation of adults and parents and influencers are passing on to whoever, for me, kids, for you, if you have anyone that you influence, like that's what we're, I think, passing down. Like, I'm very much on the side of, oh, you don't want to go to college? Cool. What do you want to do?
Right.
Focus on it. Mm-hmm. Figure out a way to monetize it if you need to. You want to be an actor? Cool. I'm there. I'm on the ride with you. I'll encourage you to go that way.
Yeah. That's like my entire core set of values for any entrepreneurial venture I'm involved in.
Yeah. So that's how the conversations start with somebody that I don't know too well is I try to and I also try to another interviewer, and I know we have to wrap up here. So another interviewer that I really kind of respect, and I never thought I would say this, but the dude that played Lex Luthor in Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum, Sorority Boys. I don't know if you've seen that movie. No,
I'm familiar with the actor, but
so Michael Rosenbaum, he has Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum interview show, and his is I wish I could get as deep as he does. And he gets super deep about mental issues and mental health issues and all kind of stuff like that. And he talks to his interviews with celebrities, Shazam. I can't think of his real name, Zach Levi.
Well, I noticed you didn't transform into a wizard, so apparently you can say that word safely.
Yes, I can. Stephen Amell, Tom Welling. He's had so many deep conversations with these celebrities that you don't get anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So I try to invoke that when I can, but it's really about getting to know the person from their childhood on. We jump around a lot. We go on tangents about Batman.
As you do, and that's the format. That's the format. Yeah.
And so that's how I get to know somebody that I don't know and I don't Wikipedia much on.
No, I like that aspect. How did you get here? The childhood, all that stuff. Yeah. How did that shape where you're at now?
Right. So anyway, we're almost
about the mic drop here.
Yeah. So anything else you want people to know about before we let you go? Before a future appearance here.
I mean, I guess I can take the altruistic route and talk about the charity I'm involved with.
Do it.
Lev27, lev27.org. What we do is provide assistance for renters who have come across recent hardships, like they lost a job or something. They're good people who have something bad happen to them. We raise money to help them with short-term rental assistance. Not short-term rental like Airbnb, but to keep them in their house.
Right.
Paying the landlord for a couple months, letting them get back on their feet, and then providing resources to fill that gap. Lev27.org.
Cool. I like that. That's a great way to end this interview. Jonesy, thank you for being on here once again, and I'm sure we'll be sitting down again to chat.
Can't wait. Thanks for breaking me out of a 13-year hiatus.
Thanks once again to Jonesy for jumping on Everything Is Awesome with me. What a pleasure to speak with him. He actually, with conversion chemistry, jumped into podcasting immediately after recording this. He had enough time in between us recording this and me rupturing my ankle to start a whole damn podcast on his own. So congrats to Jonesy for starting up a new podcast that is definitely in the vein of stuff that he's doing these days with marketing and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So as we said in the intro, and as Jonesy said during the show, you can go to Conversion Chemistry. There will be a link in the show notes for it, and you can get 90% off a lifetime license to this marketing toolkit by using the listener code AWESOME2024. That's AWESOME2024, 90% off, making your final total for a lifetime license $197, which is well under the normal $2K price for the Conversion Chemistry marketing kit. And all those show notes and links and stuff will be in the show notes. I'm not going to keep you here much longer because this episode went a little long. Not quite as long as last week's, or I guess last episode, but here we are, breaking time barriers again. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you check out our social medias at Awesome Podcast on Instagram, at Real Awesome Pod on both Facebook and Twitter, if they're still a thing. You can also find me on TikTok at That Nerdy Kev. I'm not creating a brand new TikTok just for the show because, well, the show is me and I am the show. Yes? No? I don't know. Now, at the time of this recording and release, the special election for my district is now over. So thank you to everyone in my district that went out to vote. That means a lot to, I'm sure, not just the candidates, but myself and, of course, our community, to ensure that our community's voice was heard and the proper elected official was elected to represent this community. That, of course, means that running as the mayor of Levittown with no opposition, I am now the mayor of Levittown, Pennsylvania. It may be an honorary title because, let's face it, there is no actual mayor of Levittown, but I think in reality, as I'm using this as satire and stuff, that moniker for me really means to continue pushing the idea that you need to go out and vote, that you need to have your voice heard by your local officials, and doing things like going to Make 5 Calls, 5calls.org, and finding issues that are important to you and calling your representatives. This isn't a Levittown thing. This isn't a Pennsylvania thing. This is a United States thing. And that's the way we're going to get things changed. So find an issue that's important to you and call and have your voice heard. Calling makes such a difference because it shows how much you actually care about community and your community and the country and stuff. And you don't even need to do it and speak to a live person if you don't want to. I get shy like that. I'll call after hours and leave a voicemail, and every single time I've gotten something, either a callback or something in the mail acknowledging that my voice was heard. Even more, there is a script to read with 5calls.org to make it even easier. So go out and do that. I don't know when everyone's primary is, but Pennsylvania's primary is coming up in April, I believe. That's another great opportunity to go out and vote because it really sets the stage for what's coming in November, and November is, an important election. So let's get out there, have our voices heard, and you can go to mayorlevittown.com to find out more information about Pennsylvania voting. But I also have some issues that are important to me on there that you could take a look at that aren't universal to Levittown. I should say they aren't exclusive to Levittown. They are pretty universal to the country. Anyway, next week we got Mike coming back for part 2 of our conversation where we discuss more things that we really appreciated in 2023. Man, I'm ready. I'm so glad. I'm sad that I took 2 weeks off, but it feels so good to be on this microphone. We'll see you same awesome time, same awesome channel right here on awesomepodcast.com.